What's up, YT family? It is Julia Creations and I'm back with another video. So guys, today's video is going to be different than my normal videos. So it's been brought to my concern that a lot of budget babes have questions about using their expense tracker. So today, this video is going to be dedicated strictly to our expense tracker page. I don't have a video on my YT channel of me usually doing my expense tracker because we wrap it up at the end of the month and then I put it on my YouTube shorts that way, just because it's a really short video and I try to give you guys more lengthier videos. But today we're going to just be getting in the nitty gritty and talking about how the expense tracker works, really getting into the benefits of using the expense tracker, how I use my expense tracker as being self-employed, how you can use your expense tracker to manage your checks as well. So we're really just going to get into the nitty gritty and the whole reason why we use expense trackers. If you guys don't know, my 2024 goal was to stop using my debit card, which I have achieved that within the first month of the year. I have completely switched over. I did apply for a new credit card and I will be doing my next video, most likely will be unboxing that credit card so you guys can see what credit card I got, the benefits of my credit card, and then see if it's a credit card you want to get. So I will for sure be putting that on my next video on Wednesday, and then we're just gonna talk about it. And I hope for all my budget babes that you guys can eventually become cashless, because becoming cashless has built my credit limits, my credit score tremendously. I'm getting points back for the money I've been spending, and I feel like this is so important because this comes into why we are expense tracking. So if you're an impulsive spender, you definitely want to watch this full video. Make sure you guys like this video, subscribe to my YT channel if you haven't, and of course all the products we're using is from my brand, which is Julia Creations. Everything I created for you guys to be better with your budgeting, managing your finances, to get control of your finances. Your girlie got you as well. I am a believer of a living extremely below your means till you reach a financial standpoint where you feel like you can reach your financial goals. Everybody's financial goals are different, so just keep that in mind when you're budgeting, you know, just all of that. But anywho, we're gonna jump straight into my expense tracker and we're gonna talk about it. Alright you guys, so we are looking at the month of July. It is currently, today is July 19th. So this is my whole month, my whole calendar that I have for the month here. And then here is my monthly budget. We're going to look at my goal. My goal is to get summer clothes, and I want to prioritize our variable expenses. So our fixed expenses are usually the same throughout our whole budget. These are usually bills. If anything changes or maybe you have more than you thought you would, that's when our fixed expenses will change in our expense tracker, but usually those are pretty consistent. So the main thing we want to focus on is our variable expenses. So here I quote to spend $80 on gas. I have a self-care budget of $180. I have groceries, which are for $60 or $160 for the month. Eating out for $120, spending for $400, and subscriptions for $47. And my credit card, I don't have a balance on my credit card. If you are currently working on paying off credit card debt, you may have a balance on yours. Hopefully that cleared the camera, you guys. Sorry, it was a little blurry. So sweet. So if you fill up a weekly/bi-weekly template, you will go through and see how much you've spent for the week as well. Here on this section, we go through and write down our bills that come out and then how much we plan to spend for our variables. So I personally don't use a weekly budget just because monthly works for me as being self-employed. So I just proceed with the monthly and that does the job for me. But everybody that's paid weekly or bi-weekly, this may be very beneficial for you. So I have a full playlist on how to fill that out. Alright you guys, so then we have our bill expense tracker page. This is just to organize when your bills are coming out, to be crossing things off as they come out so you're prepared and you know exactly what's coming out every single month. This is what we have our bill payments page for. So now we are in our beautiful expense tracker page. This is our expense tracker where we're going to go through and break down our expenses into 3 different categories. So how do we pull our bank statements to even do this? We're going to pull our credit cards and we're going to pull our debit cards or any bank account information to access this information. Also, if you still do use cash, make sure you're saving your receipts because we want to make sure that we're bookkeeping all of this. Alright you guys, so the reason why we want to pull our bank statements, any receipts, because we want to keep a paper trail. One of the main reasons why people are inconsistent with their budget is because they don't know where their money is going at all. So this is for all the people that say, I never know where my money's going, I'm an impulsive spender, this is why you need to be setting up your expense tracker. So the goal for the expense tracker is to keep a paper trail of all of your transactions, breaking it down to planned, unplanned, and impulsive. Planned is going to be all our bills that we plan to spend for the month, all of our expenses. So it's not just our bills, it's everything we plan in our monthly budget or our weekly / a bi-weekly budget. So as you can see here, I plan to spend this much on these categories and I plan to spend this much on these categories. So for fixed expenses, you necessarily don't have to put them in your expense tracker because we have a bill tracker page, but I prefer to keep putting them in my expense tracker anyway. I like to just have a whole paper trail of everything because at the end of the month, you're going to add all this up to make sure it matches your budget. So as you can see here, I have been doing pretty good on staying unplanned. How do I know that I'm staying good unplanned? Because everything is still adding up to the budget that I set for the month. So in here, every time you go out to eat, you're going to write down how much you spend on eating out. So for example here, we're going to go ahead and add up just my eating out budget before we update my expense tracker for this upcoming week. We're going to go ahead and see how I've been doing on eating out. So the first of the month, I had ate out for $10. The fifth of the month, I've ate out for $25. And then I'm going to add my coffee to my eating out budget for $6. And then I also ate out again for $10. And then, yeah, that's it for eating out. So I have already spent $51. So my eating out budget is $120 for the month. So I know based off my expense tracker that I am still sticking to my budget, so I can still go out to eat. So has it become impulsive yet? No. If I were to go over that $121 in the span of the rest of the month, then it would be considered impulsive. Why is this important? Because I'm aware of my spending, so I know when I can stop or continue to go. So it's going to keep going. For my spending budget, I have a spending budget of $400 for this month because I wanted to get summer clothes, and then I wind up going to a concert. So I already know out of my spending budget, I spent $130 on a concert, $50 on other spending, and $19 on spending. So I have already spent $250 of my spending budget based off these numbers here. So I know I can only spend $150 more in total without going over my budget. Before we fill in my expense tracker, there's one other thing that I wanted to address as well that I personally do. So because I use my credit cards for all my transactions, I have two separate accounts. I have one account that holds all my fixed bills. So in this account, all my bills are on auto pay. It just comes out of the bill account. All of these bills I do not pay with my credit card. I only pay my variables with my credit card. So for instance, you can set up a savings account that only has, or not a savings account, a checking account that only has the amount that you need for your variable total. So in the second checking account, I only have $987 in there. So as I'm going through and I'm swiping my card and I'm going out to eat and I'm sticking to my eating out budget, I'm paying off my credit card right then and there. So when I'm doing this $10 for eating out, it's on my credit card so I can get points back. But I'm taking the money from this account that I've already put and I'm portioning it to my a budget on my credit card. So basically, just like how you swipe your debit card and you make transactions and you write it on the bank statement, you're doing the same thing on the credit card, but you have just an account that has that amount on there. So I know once this $987 runs out, I have spent everything that I set for my budget for the month. Let's say I didn't spend everything that's in here. We'll see that answer at the end of the month. I will have leftover money. So this will also keep you organized as well. So for subscriptions, guys, technically you can move this over to your fixed side. I put mine on the variables. It is auto paid, but it's linked to this account for me. So it's totally up to you how you want to organize that with subscriptions. But personally, everything else I run on my credit card. So keeping these amounts over here just helps me stay organized to make sure I'm sticking to my budget and pulling the money over. So if you're the type that leaves balances on your credit card and you find yourself running into that being the next credit card statement for the next month, use the credit card and pay it off like you're using your debit card. So the minute you go out to eat or you get your self-care and you're swiping your card, take the money you have in that checkings account that's strictly to your variable expenses and pay that card off. Another thing, since I am self-employed, I like to personally fill up two accounts. I like to have my bill account, which comes through for all my bills. I always pull my expenses a month ahead. So everything that I plan for the month is already coming out of a pre-month budget, just because I'm paid daily. So it just depends on how I'm getting paid from social media versus my business and my payout days. So if you're self-employed, what I recommend that you do is always set up an account just for bills and variables. So as you're getting paid, you can fill up your bill account and your variable account, if that makes sense. So the same way you'll do your fixed and variable expenses, you're gonna make sure you prioritize your bills first and then cover your variables. So now that we got that out the way, I hope that was helpful. We're gonna go ahead and fill in my expense tracker. So I'm just going to go through, and I've already pulled my bank statements and checked what I have been spending for this week. So all I'm gonna do is convert that over to my expense tracker. I do have my screenshots from my bank statements on my iPad, so I'm gonna just convert this over and put it all on my expense tracker, and we'll be right back. You guys, and just like that, I have updated my expense tracker for this following week. This is everything that I have spent, or anything that's coming up that's auto pay. I like to just write it in my expense tracker because I won't be checking my expense tracker to the next week. I like to do my expense tracker every Friday, so I know that these bills are on auto pay, so I just already went ahead and just wrote that in my expense tracker because those will be coming up. Now, once again, guys, if you want to go through and add everything up to make sure you're sticking to the budget, go for it. If you're impulsive and you want to make sure, so right here, my grocery budget usually averages, let's see what I have here for my grocery budget. So my grocery budget averages about $160 per month. That's what I plan to spend. So if I want to go through and see how much I have left for groceries, I can do that as well. So I spend $35 the first week of the month, the second week of the month $23, and then I also spent $66 here on Trader Joe's, and then I also went grocery shopping again and spent another $62 on my Aldi here. So just from that, I can already tell I went over my grocery budget by about $20 here. So now technically we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna set up our grocery budget as impulsive here because we went over. So this is why it's good to reality check. So we spent $35 this first day, the farmers market for $23, and then we also spent Trader Joe's for $66, and then I also went to Aldi for $62. So we're actually going to go ahead and put this as impulsive. We're not going to put it as unplanned. We're going to put it as impulsive because we went over the budget that we set for the month. So this is going to be an impulsive transaction instead. And I usually like to highlight my impulsiveness because this is going to help us when we add up our expense tracker at the end of the month. So see how it's important to add things up to see where your transactions are. I'm just going to go ahead and highlight on this end because I don't want to highlight on my my full expense tracker, because at the end of the month what we're going to do is we're going to add this up to make sure it matches the budget we set for the month. So now I can see I've already spent $20. Sorry guys, I kind of bent this over. I spent about $26 over my grocery budget here. So let's go ahead and add up my eating out to make sure we're still doing good there. Let's reality check our eating out budget to see if we need to cut back on the eating out since we went over on groceries. So we have eating out for $10 here. Then we also have eating out again for $25. Then we have coffee we're going to add to eating out. And then we also have eating out again for $10. Then we also have eating out again here for $30 for those two 15s together. So I have spent $81 out of my eating out budget. So because I still want to stick to my budget for the month that I set, and I went over my groceries by $20, maybe I will not eat more for my eating out I would stick to my eating out budget and adjust this to $100 for eating out, and then have this other $20 to cover my groceries that I went over. So you see how when you use your expense tracker, you can go through and figure out where you can make wiggle room. But if you're not expense tracking, you wouldn't know when you're going over and you need to make wiggle room. So luckily for me, that will be my last grocery trip for the month. So I'm good to go there, but maybe I'll cut back on my eating out or only spend $20 more of my eating out budget so I can make up for what I have been spending on groceries. So cool. That's how we do that. And then everything else is pretty much fixed. I already added up my spending budget here to check that out if you want to double check on your spending. I do have nails for $80. I did have my self-care budget as $180 for the month. So maybe I can take the money from self-care if I want to move things around. So you can see if you want to add up everything from your variables and add that up and do a reality check to make sure it's matching what's still in your bank account. Like I told you guys, $987 sits on my bank account, but I swipe my card until I reach this $987 and pull the money from my bank account to my credit card. So basically, anytime I make a transaction from this variable side, it comes out the variable checkings account into the credit card. So if that makes sense, hopefully that makes sense for you guys. And we keep a paper trail of that by expense tracking. So you're going to do this every single week. I prefer to do it every Friday. That's just my way of doing it, every Friday, just to see if I'm staying on track, and that way I can make adjustments and plan my next week moving forward. If you're not the type to write out your full weekly budget every day, like, or pre-plan it for the month, you can pre-plan every time you do your expense tracker. Let's say I was doing a weekly budget. I can go in and say, all right, for this week, I can only spend $20. That's all I have left on eating out. Or I can move from my self-care budget and move things over there. My spending, this is how much I get to spend because this is how much I have left from my spending budget. All right, you guys, and that is how we update our expense tracker. This is how the expense tracker process works. So if you are wondering how to update your expense tracker, this is the perfect video for this on the steps we would take here. And then guys, at the end of the month, what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to add everything up into categories and make sure it matches the budget we set for the month. So let's say you're making credit card minimums payments. If you're making credit card minimum payments, you guys, on your credit card, let's say you're in debt, that is still going to go on your expense tracker. You're just going to put the creditor and the minimum payment, because keep in mind, when you set up your budget, if you have credit card payments left over, let's say you're not using your credit card for all your variables because you're working to pay out your maxed out credit cards, that's still going to go in your expense tracker. So you'll put your credit card minimum on here. And then also, if you are using your cash surplus to pay off debt, you also have this page in here. I have a full video on this, but you're going to take the money you have left over at the end of the month, your cash surplus, and contribute more towards debt if you're doing a debt payoff plan. But at the end of the month, we're going to go ahead and add all this up and put it in our what actually happens for the month, our reality checking page of the month. And then we also have our reflection page. So we're going to see if we had any unplanned expenses. Remember, unplanned are going to be all of our bills that, not all of our bills, all of our expenses that are emergencies. You can't impulsively have car repairs. You can't impulsively have something go wrong with your car. You can either have a savings for your car, or you may just pull out the money you make for the month to pay for that car, and it can mess up something else. So that's why we want to put it as a unplanned expense. Remember, impulsive is everything that's not in your budget or goes over your budget. Here's a perfect example of us going over the budget, but guess what? We can move things around, so at the end of the month, we can still make sure we're reaching our budget goal. I hope this video was super helpful, you guys. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, like this video, and you could get your budget planner in the link in my bio or juliacreations.com. If you guys do have any more questions, please don't hesitate to ask them in the comments. I want to make sure that this is very beneficial to helping you reach your financial goals, and you guys are understanding how to use your planner correctly so you can be seeing the correct results. All right, my loves, bye, you guys.